Well, good morning. Today's video is going to be on the electrical side of side-by-sides. So we've got a 4-seat Can-Am. It got a lot of extras on it. They brought it to me. They're having battery issues, different things not working, circuit issues. So we're going to go through this and kind of show you guys everything and hopefully educate you a little bit and get this Can-Am back in order and get it safe. All right, stay tuned. Okay, so as you can see, we've got a bunch of extra lighting. Most people do. We've got communication system, which I think is a great idea. Stereo system, we've got that. We've got whips, we've got chase lights. When they brought it to me originally, I told them, what the bill was going to be and everything. So they did all the tear out of the old stuff so that I wouldn't have to tear everything out. So when you go through these and you're going through your electrical, where would you guys place that on kind of the chart? And when I talk about the chart, let me show you guys what I'm talking about. When I do a build, first thing you should concentrate on is safety. Then we moved on to your comfort items. Then we talk about suspension. And the last thing you should do to these cars is your horsepower and your wow factor. So to me, electrical falls under safety. If you don't have the proper electrical or your battery dies, you're up in the middle of the mountains by yourself, that's a problem. Obviously, fire hazard, not having wires ran correctly, that's a problem. And so, kind of along those lines, it also, with what we've got here, this goes into the wow, the last thing we should be worried about, which is the big stereo system and all that. But, I get it. At the same time that you're doing all this stuff, why not just do it all? So what we're going to be doing is doing all this, taking all this out, and we're going to be going with Switch Pros. And I'll talk a lot about Switch Pros and how nice they are, how convenient they are. Just real quick, a couple of the features that they do have is you have what they call 8 channels. Basically 8 different circuits you can control. You can make them flash, you can make them momentary on, you could run pretty much anything you want. So 1 through 4 are 20 amp circuits, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are 35 amp circuits. So this is a lot of amperage that you could run through this. And what's really nice is you get in there and you set the voltage to, let's say, 11.8. At 11.8, everything shuts off. So you're out and you're parked at the dunes, you got the big stereo going, you got the whips going, everything's cool. And you go to get in, well, we've been out here for 2 hours, I lost track of time, now it won't start. That's an issue. So what the Switch Pros does, and we actually have this on a couple of our cars, and it's happened. We look over, the music's off, the whips aren't going anymore, so it's at 11.8. Well, guess what? The car will still start, we can still get back to camp, everything's good. So yeah, they're $650, but when you start looking at doing rocker switches and relays and different assemblies to do all the same stuff that a Switch Pro's done, and the safety that's built into it, it's a no-brainer. This is the way to go. Watertight, IP67 rated, everything's good, pretty simple wiring. And I'll show pictures throughout the video of, kind of what we're getting into and how things could be better. And hopefully we stay away from this right here. All right, stay tuned. All right, we've got everything out of the interior to where we can actually start redoing a bunch of this stuff. So they got an oversized battery, which is fine for everything that they have, but it's not strapped down, so it's just bouncing right there. We're gonna fix that, get it strapped down. When you wire these things, come up with a game plan, figure out where we're gonna route everything. When it comes to rugged radios, PCI, whoever you're using for your comms, make sure So this was just grounded behind the seat. So if you're picking up engine noise, these have a dual stator charging system. There's not an alternator. So they're prone to making noise with the way that they just charge and make 14 volts. So everything, this is a great place in the Can-Am. Polaris, they have the same thing. Everybody pretty much has the same thing, like a standard area where you've got your switched, your 12 volt hot, and then a good ground. This is a nice fat one. Run all your grounds to the same place. If you're running one ground here, one ground here, one ground back here, you're creating a ground plane across all these different areas. And then of course you have the Can-Am that has all these different wires, everything that it's trying to communicate with. It creates a variation of where your grounds are, and that's where you're going to pick up engine noise 100% of the time. I could see they already have a filter on here, so they were probably getting a lot of engine noise. So we're going to run all of our grounds to one place. We're going to run all of our wires. I do what's called a home run for my Switch Pros. We'll get into that. So the brain box I'm going to mount back here. Everything will get wired to that location. So you're up in the middle of nowhere, you're having a problem with something, and you pull one seat out, you pull one panel out, and you have access to all of your wiring and everything in one convenient place. A lot of this, we've got some pinch points. We've actually got wires like wrapped around stuff. Typically, your headsets, you want to take those and run them down the outside of the car. Your antenna wire outside of the car. Get everything away from the middle. This is all you're going to be Can-Am, Polaris. Like I said, I don't care who you're talking about. Get away from all their wiring that runs through the belly. Another thing, these are cooling lines, so they get hot. Keep all your wires, keep all your stuff away from those lines. Keep them from getting pinched and behind panels. You know, all of this stuff. Like I said, it all matters. It becomes a safety issue at some point, which was the case with this vehicle. So we'll get her back in shape and hopefully educate some people, and you guys don't do this to yours, and you keep going on down the road. All right, so we have the car side of everything wired. I still got to do the amps and all the speakers and everything in the back, but the Switch Pros is going to go right here. On the Can-Am, your panel, this is a real easy place. Very minimal modifications. Cut one of those little fins out, put it in there. So here's your plug that goes to there, but we've got everything else run. We'll put the Switch Pros in, and like I said, nice and simple. Everything's clean. We took all of our antenna and all of our stuff for the communication system for the rugged. We ran it down the outside of the car. Same thing with a lot of these speaker wires we ran everything back down the outside of the car. So you can see there's a lot less going on inside the tunnel. So hopefully this will clean everything up and we won't end up with any engine noise. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back. As you can see, we've still got quite the mess, but we are done wiring. Time to start putting everything back together. So I got the trickle charger on it. I was messing with everything last night and running everything. So RCAs sometimes are a little tough. What do you do with the excess? Once again, that's a communication cable. If you can avoid coiling it up in tight coils and near any other electronics and anything is probably best. Here's where everything runs through the tunnel now. You got your Switch Pros controller. All of your connections are right there. Everything's nice and clean. So considering this is a 6-speaker stereo system, 2 subwoofers, 2 amps, rugged radios, lighting, all the things that it has, we've got everything back to being pretty clean. So a couple reminders when you do these things. There's a lot of vent tubes. So fuel lines, vent tubes, anything that's tied to cooling. Make sure you're very careful with your wires, your zip ties, especially up here in the front. Your fuel cell is underneath this compartment. People zip tie things, whatever. If you get under there and you get a hold of a vent line for your fuel tank, you're going to get a lot of smell in the cab. There's some vent lines back here you can see right here underneath the C-pillar. So just anything you're doing, just make sure you're not collapsing vent tubes, you're not tying onto a radiator line that's going to get excessively hot, doing anything like that. Plan these out, you know, sit down, what all am I going to put on it, what am I going to do, and then you can avoid possibly doing it twice, but sometimes it happens. This should give you the most dependable vehicle for all your wiring, lighting, communications, and it actually sounds really good again. So everything works. We're going to get it all put back together and get it back to our customer. All right, thanks for watching.